The house on the hill. In the quiet village of Umuaka, everyone whispered about the house on the hill. They said it was haunted. Strange sounds would echo from it at night, and shadows would appear in the windows. But no one dared to go inside. No one except Nnamdi, who was about to find out how true the stories were. Once upon a time, in a village of Umuaka, there lived a young teenage boy called Nnamdi. He has heard about the stories of the house since he was a child. Tales of spirits and curses, warnings to keep away from it. But Nnamdi didn't believe in any of it. He was fearless, or so he thought. So one night, when his friends dared him to go to the house on the hill, he didn't hesitate. He was going to prove to them that the house was just a house, nothing more. "Are you sure you want to do this?" his best friend, Ifeanyi, asked nervously, his voice shaking as he looked up at the dark, looming house. Nnamdi laughed. "It's just a bunch of old stories. I'll be in and out before you know it." His friends watched, eyes wide, as Nnamdi stepped through the creaking iron gates and began his climb up the worn stone steps to the front door. The house was old, with cracked walls and windows covered in dust and cobwebs. Nnamdi's heart was pounding, but he wouldn't let his friends see his fear. He pushed the door open and it groaned, echoing through the silent night. Inside, everything was still and dark. The air smelled of dust and mold. Nnamdi took a few cautious steps, shining his flashlight around. Shadows seemed to dance on the walls as he moved, making his skin crawl. Then he heard it, a faint whisper, like someone was speaking from deep within the house. "Nnamdi, Nnamdi." The voice called, soft and chilling. He froze, his blood turning cold. He hadn't expected anyone else to be here. Was someone playing a trick on him? He tightened his grip on the flashlight and took another step forward, his anger rising. He'd shown his friends this was a silly prank, and he wasn't about to let them get the better of him. "Who's there?" he called, his voice echoing through the empty rooms. Silence. He took another step forward and suddenly, the door behind him slammed shut with a loud bang. Nnamdi's heart leapt and he ran back to the door, pulling at it desperately, but it wouldn't budge. Now he was trapped. Fear gripped him, but he forced himself to stay calm. It was just an old house, right? There had to be another way out. He turned back, his eyes scanning the hallway, and then he saw it. A shadow moving, gliding silently across the floor towards him. It looked like the shape of a person, but there was no one there. It was just a dark figure, floating closer and closer. Nnamdi's hands trembled as he backed away, his heart pounding in his chest, his anger mixed with fear, and he shouted, "I don't believe in ghosts." But the shadow didn't stop. It only grew darker and a cold, sharp wind swept through the hallway, sending chills down Nnamdi's spine. He stumbled back, tripping over a loose floorboard and landed hard on the ground. Then he heard it again. The voice. Nnamdi, you shouldn't have come here. He scrambled to his feet, his flashlight flickering. This isn't real. This can't be real, he whispered to himself. But the fear was real. The shadow was real. And the house felt alive, like it was closing in on him, like it was trapping him inside. He turned back and ran, his footsteps echoing down the long, dark hallway. The shadow followed, gliding silently, and whispers grew louder, angrier. Every room he passed seemed darker and scarier than the last. Every door was locked, every window barred. Finally, he reached a staircase that led to the upper floor. But as he reached the top, he found himself in a small room with only one window, covered in thick iron bars. He was trapped. The shadow filled the doorway, blocking his escape, and the air grew colder. He could hardly breathe. His anger turned to desperation as he pounded on the walls, searching for any way out. The whisper came again, this time around, louder, almost a scream. You should have listened. Nnamdi. You should have listened. Nnamdi. You should have stayed away. Tears filled Nnamdi's eyes as he realized he might not make it out. He thought of his family, his friends, how he had laughed at the stories, never believing that anything like this could be real. Then, just as the shadow closed in, he heard a voice, a real human voice. Nnamdi, Nnamdi, are you in there? It was Ifeanyi. With all his strength, Nnamdi shouted, "Help me! I'm trapped!" Ifeanyi and the others managed to find a way into the house and raced up the stairs, pulling him out of the small room just as the shadow vanished. The boys stumbled out of the house, breathing heavily, not daring to look back. They ran down the hill, not stopping until they reached the safety of the village. The house stood still, silent as if nothing had happened. But Nnamdi knew what he had seen, and he would never forget it. Moral lesson. Sometimes fear and curiosity can lead us into dangerous places, and there are things we're better off not messing with. Respect the stories and warning of those who came before us, because not everything we don't believe in is safe to explore.